Hi everyone, I am Reena Catherine, Assistant Professor, Department of Commerce. Today we are going to see about macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is a branch of economics that studies how an overall economy, the markets, business, consumers, and governments behave. Macroeconomics examines economy-wide phenomena such as inflation, price levels, rate of economic growth, national income, gross domestic product, and changes in unemployment. History of macroeconomics. Financial leasing services including equipment leasing and hire purchase by a body. While the term macroeconomics is not all that old, going back to the 1940s, many of macroeconomics core concepts have been the study focus for much longer. Topics like unemployment, prices, growth, and trade above concern economists since the beginning of the discipline in the 1700s. Elements of earlier work from Adam Smith and John Stuart Mill addressed issues that would now be recognized as the domain of macroeconomics. In its modern form, macroeconomics is often defined as starting with John Maynard Keynes and his book The General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money in 1936. Keynes explained the fallout from the Great Depression when goods remained unsold and workers were unemployed. Macroeconomics versus microeconomics. Macroeconomics differs from microeconomics, which focuses on smaller factors that affect choices made by individuals and companies. Factor studies in both microeconomics and macroeconomics typically influence one another. A key distinction between micro and macroeconomics is that macroeconomic aggregates can sometimes behave in very different ways or even the opposite of similar microeconomic variables. For example, Keynes referenced the so-called paradox of thrift, which argues that individuals save money to build wealth. Micro. However, when everyone tries to increase their savings at once, it can contribute to a slowdown in the economy and less wealth in the aggregate macro. This is because there would be a reduction in spending affecting business revenues and lower worker pay. Macroeconomics and microeconomics. This is a difference between micro and macroeconomics. Components of macroeconomics. Macroeconomics is the study of cumulative effect of these households and firms acting in aggregate, run in turn how these cumulative effects affect individual households and firms. The major components of macroeconomics include the gross domestic product, GDP, economic output, employment and inflation. Limits of macroeconomics. It is also important to understand the limitations of economic theory. Theories are often created in a vacuum and lack specific real world details like taxation, regulation, and transaction cost. The real world is also decidedly complicated and includes matters of social preference and concerns that do not lend themselves to mathematical analysis. Indicators to measure economic performance. Gross domestic product indicators measure how much the economy produces. Consumer spending indicators measure how much capital consumers feed back into the economy. Prices and inflation indicators indicate fluctuations in price paid for goods and services and changes in currency purchasing power. Investment in fixed assets indicators indicate how much capital is tied up in fixed assets. Government indicators shows employment by industry, state, country and other areas. Government indicators shows how much the government spends and receives. Special indicators, all other economic indicators such as distribution of personal income, global value chains, healthcare spending, small business well-being and more. Thank you.